All right, we're on the Fuji X-M5 with the 15 to 45 mil kit lens. This is the vlog mode, 8-bit, 4K. Film simulation is Provia f3.5. Shutter speed 400. That sun is so bright. I really wish this had an ND filter. I'll get to that. All right, so using the Fuji X-M5 has been a frustratingly exciting experience. Oh man, that sun is out and 400 shutter speed is too low. It's going up. It's going up to 1,000. So I was lucky enough to get my hands on the Fuji X-M5 and I've been using it for a couple weeks in Colombia. There's a lot I really love about this camera. 6K open gate log footage. It's got the flippy screen and of course the film simulations. Not to mention it's priced under $1,000 and you can get it with the kit lens like I did mine for about $900 if you can get your hands on one of these, because these are selling out like crazy. Keep in mind, this is not a review, but just my observations as a first-time user. So the first thing I'll say is I've been having trouble with my SD cards in this camera. At first I thought it was the Fuji. It just kept freezing. I'd get a write error, especially when I started recording 4K video. I lost a bunch of videos that I was recording on this camera in some really cool locations, which made me really frustrated. I've reformatted several different times on my SD cards, and I think I know what the issue is. The SD cards I'm using are not on the approved list of Fuji X-M5 SD cards, and even though they're the same SD cards that I've used in my camera. All right, literally, I just got a write error right as I was making my point about this SD card issue. So what I did is I ordered one of the approved SD cards on the Fuji site, and when I get back, I'm gonna swap it out with that card, and hopefully that should fix all of the glitchiness and the write errors with this SD card and camera combination. I don't know why I don't have this problem with my Sony or Canon cameras, but it is what it is. Now let's talk about the video quality. The X-M5 is absolutely fantastic. It blows away pretty much everything else in terms of video quality in its price range. 6K open gate, 10-bit log. I really think the X-M5 is a dark horse candidate to become one of the best, if not the best, entry-level cinema cameras. Like seriously, you hook the right lens and accessories up to this thing and it is an absolute powerhouse. But it's got one big Achilles heel that makes it practically unusable for handheld video, and that is the lack of in-body image stabilization. Now, I knew this going in before buying this camera, and I thought, you know, it's got optical stabilized lenses, it has digital stabilization, should be fine. It's got a vlog mode, right? So you should be able to use it just fine for recording videos like this one. I was wrong. Well, let me tell you, unless you're standing perfectly still or have a talking head shot like this one, the video looks like garbage with and without the optical and digital stabilization. It's kind of shocking to me that Fuji is presenting this camera as like an entry-level vlogging YouTuber beginner's camera when the image stabilization to do so is just so terrible. On like a fixed shot like this, or like in a studio environment, is really where this camera is going to shine, but you are absolutely going to need a gimbal or the right tripod combination to have good enough stabilization so that you can actually use the incredible footage coming out of this camera. Then there's the quality of the camera itself. So I've never had a Fuji camera to compare this to in terms of build quality. I think the feel is really nice. I really like the way that this camera looks, but it is super fragile. The X-M5 scratches super easily. I'm not sure what kind of finish they used on like the hard plastics here. I have babied this thing. I've kept it in my camera bag the whole time that I've been traveling, and it's starting to get scratched up, and I have no idea how. I just know that this camera is going to see its fair share of wear. Now, something I do really like about the build of this camera is the functionality, the dials, the flippy screen, the user interface. I really like all that. I really like the dials and knobs on this thing, including the film simulations dial, which I think makes sense for this camera, and I'm really enjoying using them like I am in this video. Except the main front dial, which I like the functionality. You punch it in and you can select ISO, f-stop, and film simulations as kind of the default settings here. But because it's like right on the front grip, I find myself knocking this dial back and forth right before taking a shot, because when I'm like going to press half in on the shutter, I keep knocking this dial, and I'll be at the right shutter speed and I'll bump it, and then my exposure will be off, and that's been driving me absolutely crazy. So the only knock here is if the placement of the front dial was a little bit higher or in a different spot, it'd be more ideal. Now, one more knock on the video, and you can see I've been having trouble with this, is the lack of ND filter. Now, you can get aftermarket or third-party ND filters you can throw on lenses, but not having a built-in ND filter, variable ND filter for the XM5 is a huge downside. It's something that I have on my Sony RX100 Mark V, which I've been using as my travel camera forever, and not having it on this, you can see the downsides. Makes it much harder to use in daylight conditions when you're looking for a lower f-stop. Now, in this video, on a positive note, in terms of photography, I really love the images that come out of this camera. I've been playing around with the film simulations. It's one of the biggest selling points in this camera. I really like them. I've found myself using RAW more often than just straight out of JPEG. And the one thing that I really like about this camera, and I'm sure it's true of other Fujis as well, is the RAW conversion setting. You can take a RAW plus JPEG, and you can go in camera, and then you can apply a film simulation to the RAW file straight in camera. You can also do it with Fuji X Studio with your computer, which actually uses the camera processor and the processing in the camera to turn RAW files into JPEGs using Fuji's film simulations. That is super cool. You can push and pull the exposure. You can tweak a few other settings as well in camera with your RAW files. I found myself using that feature quite a bit on this trip. I really love it. And for me, that is one of the make or break features of the Fuji X-M5. So I'm going to keep testing the Fuji X-M5. It's going to be my daily driver and my new studio camera from now on. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of the Fuji X-M5. If it's something you're interested in, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.